It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They called him the mogul of moguls, the kingmaker, a walking hip-hop empire. But yesterday, all that crumbled in seconds. When Cassie Ventura took the stand, Diddy's picture-perfect image started falling apart. His face turned ghostly pale. As she laid out disturbing claims so raw, even veteran courtroom reporters were stunned into silence. The man who once ran the industry like a boss couldn't even keep his composure as Cassie started exposing everything that allegedly happened behind those private doors.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs walked through the music world like it was his kingdom, and in many ways it was. He built Bad Boy Records from scratch, turned unknown artists into legends, and stretched his brand across fashion, liquor, and TV. On paper, Diddy was the blueprint, the businessman who turned hip-hop into big business. But now courtroom revelations are tearing through that glossy image. Because while the world saw magazine covers and red carpet smiles, Cassie claims she was living a whole different nightmare behind the scenes. The shift in the courtroom was intense. Diddy walked in for day 2 looking every bit the billionaire boss sharpsuit. Confident nods, legal team in tow. But all that swagger, it vanished fast. Within 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony, witnesses say the cracks in his mask started to show. His calm, polished demeanor faded. His team jumped up with objections over and over, almost like they were trying to stop the bleeding. Just imagine the man who built an empire now couldn't even control his own reactions. He was reportedly fidgeting nonstop, scribbling notes, so fast one of his lawyers had to physically stop him. One court reporter called it like watching someone lose the script of their life in real time. Another witness said Diddy looked physically sick as Cassie spoke. He kept closing his eyes like he couldn't even face her words. And this was only the beginning. The allegations that followed would shake the music world and possibly erase the legacy Diddy spent his whole career building. Because this time he couldn't cut the mic, couldn't spin the headlines, and couldn't stop what was coming next.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, She said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, "I know, you don't want to do it." And she said, "Oh no, well, it's not that." But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, the entire courtroom froze. You could feel the weight in the air. Everyone knew this was coming, but no one, not even Diddy's high-powered legal squad, was prepared for what she was about to reveal. After staying silent for years, she finally spoke. And what she said, it rocked the room. She began her testimony quietly, but with purpose. Cassie recalled meeting Diddy at just 19. He was already a giant in the industry, rich, powerful, connected. She was a young model chasing her music dreams. The power gap was huge, and according to her, Diddy knew it and used it. Her words painted a chilling picture. At first, it was about control. She testified that Diddy wanted to know where she was at all times, even showing up when she was out. Then came the career threats, how he allegedly blocked collaborations and shelved her music if she didn't play by his rules. One of the biggest shocks. Cassie claimed he put tracking software on her phone. She said he'd call her minutes after. She arrived somewhere, already knowing where she was. She said he slowly cut her off from her friends until she was completely isolated with only him in her world. The courtroom was tense. The judge had to intervene multiple times. Diddy couldn't sit still, shaking his head, whispering to his lawyers, visibly reacting. Each time the judge warned him to calm down, but the cracks were showing. And then came the moment that shifted everything. Cassie handed her phone to her lawyer. What happened next left the courtroom stunned. Screens lit up with texts and emails, years of messages, apologies for violent behavior, alleged threats to ruin her career if she ever went public, messages that directly clashed with everything Diddy's PR had said. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Cassie then described the physical abuse. She spoke about being thrown into walls, about being pushed downstairs during an argument in a Miami rental, and most disturbing of all, she testified that Diddy choked her more than once. Until she went limp, jurors reacted. One older woman wiped away tears. A male juror turned his head, he couldn't look at Diddy. Even veteran courtroom reporters admitted they weren't ready for what Cassie brought. And this was just the buildup. Because what she said next, the hotel incident, would shake the music world to its core.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night. Cassie said, her voice so low the entire courtroom leaned in, hanging on every word. She was finally revealing the incident that no one, not fans, not media, not even the gossip blogs, had ever heard about: the Four Seasons hotel night. A moment she had buried for years out of pure fear for her life, her career, and the chilling reality that no one would believe her over someone as powerful as Diddy. But now, sitting on that witness stand, Cassie wasn't holding back. She described what started out as just another industry afterparty until things took a terrifying turn. Diddy allegedly lost it after seeing her speak to another music executive. Cassie said his face changed, smile gone. He grabbed her arm so tightly it left bruises. He leaned in and whispered threats, all while keeping his calm, polished appearance in public. But what came next shocked the courtroom. Cassie testified that Diddy dragged her through the hotel lobby. Heading to the elevators, she was crying, trying to resist, making enough of a scene that hotel security stepped in only to back off the second they recognized Diddy. Cassie said the guard never even asked her if she was okay, just took Diddy's word and walked away. Then came the visual proof. Her lawyer pulled out a set of photos Cassie had taken the next morning: visible bruises on her arms, a swollen split lip, red marks around her neck. These weren't professional or staged, they were shaky, raw mirror selfies taken in a bathroom, which somehow made them even more gut-wrenching. Cassie said she took the photos because she knew no one would believe her without them. Diddy's legal team jumped up, scrambling to block the images from being shown. They argued about authenticity, timing, protocol, but the judge shot down every single objection. The photos went up on the courtroom screen, and the jury's response said it all. One woman covered her mouth in shock. 2 men looked away completely. Another juror sitting in the back was writing notes so furiously her hand was visibly shaking. This hotel incident. No one saw it coming, including Diddy's own attorneys. They had no defense ready, no strategy in place. Their faces gave it away. Panic. Cassie went on to describe how Diddy allegedly threw a champagne bottle at her, missing her head by inches, and smashing it against a wall. She testified that he wrecked the hotel suite in a violent outburst, breaking lamps, flipping furniture, and punching through a bathroom door. But the most disturbing part, Cassie claimed he held her inside that room for over 48 hours, took her phone, and warned her there'd be consequences if she tried to leave or call for help. As she finished her testimony, all eyes in that courtroom shifted to Diddy, and in that moment, his reaction became the headline. A single look that could define this entire case and rewrite his entire legacy.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she said she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
It was the moment no one in that courtroom will ever forget. Diddy, the man who built an empire on his cool, collected demeanor, completely lost it right in front of everyone. The carefully crafted facade cracked, then shattered, and what lay beneath wasn't pretty. You have to understand, this was a guy who'd spent decades perfecting his public persona, the smooth-talking mogul, the composed businessman who always kept his cool. But as Cassie's testimony hit its hardest points, that polished mask began slipping away. Court reporters who'd covered countless celebrity trials said they'd never seen anything like it. Diddy literally transformed before their eyes from the confident industry titan who walked in that morning to a man who looked cornered and desperate. As the day wore on with each new allegation Cassie made, he seemed to physically shrink in his chair. His legal team was working overtime. I heard from someone sitting right behind them that Diddy's lead attorney kept putting his hand on his arm trying to calm him down. At one point, a note was passed. Stay calm, all in capital letters. But it didn't work. Things got so bad that Diddy slammed his hand down on the table when Cassie detailed an incident at his Hampton house. The sound of his hand hitting the table echoed through the courtroom. The judge immediately stopped everything and warned Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I'll have you removed from this courtroom. For a moment, it looked like he was about to be thrown out of his own trial. Throughout Cassie's testimony, Diddy was visibly shaking his head and mouthing, "That's not true," whenever she shared something particularly damaging. It was like he forgot there was a jury watching his every move. One observer said it looked like a man who had never been called out before, suddenly realizing he couldn't control the narrative anymore. The power shift in that room was palpable. For their entire relationship, Diddy allegedly controlled every aspect of Cassie's life. But now she was speaking her truth and he couldn't stop her. He couldn't cut her mic. He couldn't have security remove her. He couldn't spin it through his PR team. All he could do was sit there and take it. But the real breaking point came when Cassie started talking about the threats. She testified that Diddy had allegedly threatened her family if she ever spoke about their relationship. And then came the bombshell. No one saw this coming. Cassie had audio recordings of Diddy's voice making these threats. That's when Diddy completely lost it. He shot up from his chair, shouting at Cassie, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team scrambled to pull him back into his seat, 3 lawyers physically restraining him as he tried to yell over the recording playing in the courtroom. The judge immediately called for a recess, but the damage had already been done. Everyone in that courtroom had seen it. The jury, the reporters, the court officials, the man who built a reputation on being untouchable, had just proven how touchable he really was. As they escorted Diddy out for the break, he looked like a completely different person from the confident mogul who'd walked in that morning. The mask was gone, and underneath, nothing pretty. Just when everyone thought they'd heard it all, Cassie dropped the real bombshell. She had evidence nobody expected. Not the judge, not the jury, and especially not Diddy. For years, she'd been quietly gathering proof. Text messages, emails, photos, all stored in places where Diddy couldn't find them or delete them. The courtroom went dead silent when Cassie mentioned she had messages from other celebrities who had witnessed Diddy's behavior firsthand. These weren't just random industry people. According to court transcripts, these were some of Diddy's closest friends and associates, people who had been in his inner circle for years, who'd seen things at private parties and behind closed doors. Diddy's face said it all. One person in the gallery described him as looking physically ill when Cassie mentioned these celebrity witnesses. His legal team jumped to their feet, objecting loudly, demanding a sidebar with the judge. They argued the messages shouldn't be, admitted that they were hearsay not properly submitted during discovery. But the judge wasn't having it. After reviewing the messages in private, he overruled their objections, calling the messages highly relevant. And just like that, they were allowed into evidence. The look on Diddy's face, pure dread. He knew what was coming. One by one, the messages appeared on the courtroom screens. A major rapper had texted Cassie after a Grammy after-party, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." A pop star had written, "I've known him for 15 years. I've never seen him act like that with anyone else. This isn't normal. Please call me." The most damaging, a longtime producer who had worked with Diddy for decades. He texted Cassie, "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." These messages completely contradicted what Diddy had been telling the public, that no one had ever witnessed his behavior. The messages made it clear people had seen it, and they'd tried to reach out to help her. But it didn't stop there. Diddy's own texts popped up on the screen. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Another message, "Whatever you need to make this right, just name it. New car, new apartment, whatever you want." And then a third series, attempts to buy silence. "My lawyer can draw up paperwork tomorrow. $2 million, clean break. You don't talk about anything from the last 5 years." As these texts were read aloud, something surprising happened in the gallery. Several people who had arrived with Diddy that morning, members of his entourage, quietly got up and left. One by one, they slipped out, unable to sit through what was unfolding. By the time this part of Cassie's testimony wrapped, Diddy was almost alone at his table. Just him and his legal team, the entourage who'd walked in with him that morning. Gone. The support was slipping away, and the evidence, it had changed everything. As day 2 wrapped up, the man who walked into court as the untouchable king of music left looking completely defeated. Diddy's security couldn't protect him from what had just happened in that courtroom. The empire he'd spent decades building. It might be crumbling in real time. Cassie Ventura didn't just share her story today. She might have just rewritten Diddy's entire legacy. The evidence, the testimony, the recordings, it all painted a picture nobody can unsee. The question now isn't whether Diddy can win this case, it's whether his reputation will ever recover from what the world just heard.